Hey guys, Sam here at NA Studios. Today I'm comparing a vintage Neumann U87 with the rather inexpensive Rode NT1-A, seeing how they both fare against each other on a male vocal, my male vocal. Let's get into it. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit like, let's check it out. Right, so normally I'm using an SM7 for the voiceover, but seeing as I'm doing the U87 here, I thought I'd be all fancy pants and use that. It's a great mic. Whatever you want to say about it, you want to say about it. It sounds good. It sounds great for vocals, but I want to see if the price tag that it has is really worth it against this, because this one will set you back somewhere under £200, which is a great mic for the price. This is over 10 times the price. I don't know, £2 grand, something like that for an old one. At least they're a lot of money. I've done a chorus vocal. It's an Iron Maiden track, Different World. Mate of mine and I, we recorded this a few years ago just for a laugh, really. And I want to play you it now. I want to play you first off the U87, which is this one here, and then the NT1-A. We're going to listen to them with effects on, and then we're going to listen to them completely dry and just see what the differences are, kind of analyse them. We're going to put exactly the same effects on both of them, reverb on both. Let's get into it. U87 first, then NT1-A, then back to each other again. All right, cool. So let's start off then. Let's take all these effects off, all the vocals, no reverb, no anything. Just get absolutely everything off. Let's get them completely dry. Let's do the same thing again. Listen to both these, but just do it in solo. So we're going to go U87, then NT1-A, and just hear the differences. So it's going to do a phrase each. Let's go into it again. I'm just going to turn these up because I had to bring the level up considerably to fight against a pretty dense mix. So let's take a listen to them. Be here somewhere I'd rather be, but when I get there, I'm afraid it's not for me. That's quite interesting. Just listening off the bat, I think that the Rode NT1-A has got a little bit more in the top end, and I think that the U87, although it lacks that very highness in the top end, it's a bit chunkier. It's got a little bit more in that kind of low mid area. Let's have a look at it on Analyzer and just see what's what. So let's put on the channel EQ on Logic. I like that. It's a very, very intuitive way of seeing stuff. Let's just look at it highly unscientifically with both the different phrases, so you can have more S's in one and all that kind of stuff, but never mind. So the one at the top here is the U87, the one down here is the NT1-A. So let's just see how it kind of plots, if we've got much more in the tops on the S's or how it sounds. Don't wanna be here not telling us a massive amount of story there. I feel like the NT1-A, especially on this end bit here, is getting a little bit louder. So I'm just going to nudge that down, just so we're definitely doing an equal loudness. Just take a listen to it both again. I'd rather be, but I feel like that one's a little bit louder as well. I want to make this as fair as possible because I'm going to tell you the conclusion now. They're not all that different. They are different, obviously. There's going to be a difference in the sound of them. But I think the thing is, once we get them in the mix and once we get them with all the effects on and everything, we can kind of cater for that, and we can make it so that the differences, we can apply some EQ and we get a bit more of a chunkiness out of the compressor. So let's look at what I'm doing when I'm actually adding some processing to them. Well, I've got some reverb, which is going to kind of be the same for both of them. I'm compressing both in a very similar way. I've not done any differences on the EQ, on the virtual channel or anything like that. I'm just adding a bit of compression, and this is just about 4.5 the input, and then the output is relative to that. This one is going to be slightly different because the level was slightly higher. But let's just listen to them compressed, just against each other. And remember, this is no EQ, no anything like that. And then after that, we're going to look at trying to match them. Don't wanna be here, somewhere I'd rather be, but when I get there, I'm afraid it's not for me. Okay, so let's try and add just a little bit of top end to the U87, just so we can kind of try and match it. I'm going to use the channel EQ for this, just so it's a little bit more of a graphical representation of it. Let's listen to them. I'm just going to add a dB, just really broad, right at the top, and see how that affects things. Let's listen to them again and see if that's matched them just a touch. Essentially, I'm going to add some top to the U87 and a little bit of low mid, kind of mid-range to the NT1-A, just to try and match those two a little bit better. Don't wanna be here, somewhere I'd rather be. It's a little bit too much, actually. Let's go down to half a decibel. So this is half a decibel of top end with a high shelf on the U87. Let's see if we can match that. Don't wanna be here, somewhere I'd rather be. Okay, that top end is kind of a bit better matched now. I think you can probably tell what's going to come though. Even if we're EQing these to match, it's not getting the full tone, is it? We can EQ stuff all we want. We can get the exact same frequency curve, but it's just not going to sound the same. Let's do it to the U87 now as well. Let's pop a bit of that mid-range in. I think it's going to be kind of around this area, just a little bit of chunkiness, and that low, not the low mids, but the low mid-range. Do you know what I mean? Low mids to me is like 200 to 400 or 200 to 300. That's kind of low mids there. This is kind of in this area, the 400 to 500 range, I reckon anyway. So listen. I wanna be here, somewhere I'd rather be, but when I get there, I'm afraid it's not for me. Yeah, so that's just got a little bit of the girthiness, the chunkiness to it. It's not really low end and it's not really mid-range. It's just that weird kind of area that, personally, I never really hear a track, a bass drum or a vocal and think, that needs more 400 hertz. It's kind of that strange untouched territory that instruments just kind of have, but we don't necessarily think, wow, that needs loads of that area. You automatically think that needs more bass or more high end or more high mids or more low mids. That area kind of there in between, let's say 300 to 800 or 900 hertz is kind of the untouched territory for me anyway. Let me know, do you kind of EQ in that area? I think that's a bit of a weird territory. Let me know in the comments anyway. What instruments are good in that area? Well, it seems like the U87 is good in that area because I'm having to add it to the NT1-A. Let's take a listen again. Now we've just added that EQ. We're going to take off the effects other than the EQ. We're going to take off all the reverb, all the compression, and all that kind of stuff, and just listen to see if we've kind of matched that a little bit. And you'll have to let me know what you think. Don't wanna be here, somewhere I'd rather be, but when I get there, I'm afraid it's not for me. See, I'm going to take that NT1-A down again, but I think it's... The U87 has just got that girthiness. It's just got something like, it's a raspiness in my voice, I think. I'm not entirely sure what it is. I think, as the singers out there will be able to tell you, you kind of have an area in your vocals where you get this sort of natural distortion. And this is pretty high up here. It's about an A. No, maybe a B. It's a bit higher than an A, in the B, C kind of territory. And up at that range, that's the top end of my range, and it's getting to the point where my voice is kind of saying, all right, Sammy, calm it down now. We're not going to go much higher than this. But it sort of distorts naturally. And I think the U87 is capturing that distortion from my voice absolutely beautifully. I'm not talking about distortion as in like guitar Marshall amp distortion or preamp distortion or any of that kind of stuff. Your voice kind of just naturally breaks up a little bit. And I think that the U87 is capturing that so well. I've always found that this mic works extremely well for my voice, but I'm actually liking the NT1-A as well. It's not the same, but it's got a similar quality to it where it's getting that top end. I just think the U87's got that girthiness to it. Let's take a listen one more time then. I'm going to put all the effects on, and now we've added that kind of EQ, the top end to the U87, we've added that girthiness to the NT1-A, and just see how that sits in the mix now with these two different sections. I don't want to listen to it. I think the U87 is going to win. I don't really want it to. I want the NT1-A to win. Let's have a listen. Let's see how it sounds. This is, again, U87 versus NT1-A, and then back to each other again with all the effects on. We've listened to it dry. We've EQ'd it to try and make it a bit more similar. It's not told the full story. Let's take a listen to it now. Don't wanna be here. Somewhere I'd rather be. But when I get there, I'm afraid it's not for me. I still prefer that U87, but just in the interest of being fair, I'm going to swap all these over so that the ones we didn't hear before, we can now hear. So we can't kind of say, well, it's just that syllable, just those words that sound good on each mic. So this is now the alternating versions. Previously we listened to the first and third line on the U87, now listening to the first and third on the NT1-A. Let's see how it goes. Don't wanna be here. Somewhere I'd rather be. But when I get there, I'm afraid it's not for me. Other than the fact that I sang it like a sack of spanners on that version, I still like the U87. I still think it's just got this grittiness to it. I think for the money you spend, though, is that grittiness worth it? I don't know. What do you reckon? Let me know in the comments below if you think that it's like 5% difference, isn't it? I think if you're paying 200 quid for this one, you're going to get a fantastic vocal sound, and you can probably process that to get a bit more fixed and a bit more positive in the mix. But the U87, I don't know. I wouldn't say we've had to do less to it. We've had to do the same amount to it to get to that point. But I think this one, for a male kind of aggressive metal / hard rock Iron Maiden style vocal, it just kind of works a little bit better. Alright, thanks very much for watching. Make sure you check out the rest of the channel, see what's going on. Subscribe and like this video if you've enjoyed it. What do you reckon to the U87? Do you think it sounds 1,000 odd pounds better than the NT1-A? I'm not entirely sure. It does sound incredibly good though, doesn't it? Thanks a lot. Take care.